Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Manny Talks Shooting is proudly presented to you by D2 Custom Guns. Did you know that Phil the Groundhog isn't the only thing Puxatawny, Pennsylvania is famous for? That's right, D2 Custom Guns, the home of Dan Heizenreiter and one of the best, fabulous 2011 builders in the country. So make sure you guys go check him out, D2 Custom, anywhere you can see him on the social media, Facebook, Instagram, go check him out. If you see myself, Patches Reader, anyone with the D2 Custom Guns, make sure you go check him out, and you will thank me later. Now, let's get on to the show. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast on the internet, because that's where you consume these. This is on every major podcasting platform out there. So thank you for checking it out, and I appreciate it. This show is proudly presented to you by D2 Custom Guns, but you already heard about that in the snazzy commercial that was before I started talking. So without further ado, we're going to sit down with a guy I met at Area 5. We're sitting down with Mr. Greg Robinson.
Yeah.
You got to use the little sound effect boards every once in a while, because why do I have a cool board if I don't use them?
Yeah, why do you have a soundboard if you're not going to press the buttons?
Exactly. I mean, like, especially this one. It's just pitiful, but it's so fun. But yeah, so everybody, welcome. Meet Greg. How you doing, Greg?
Good, how are you?
Doing fantastic. So it's been a minute. We haven't talked to each other since probably August, really, when we met.
Yep.
We first time met in person. So we'll talk about that match in particular later in the show, I can feel. But as always, my first question to you, like every other person on the show, is who are you and how did you get into shooting?
Well, as you know, I am Greg.
Hi, Greg.
I just got out of the Marine Corps after 9 years and some change. And now I'm just kind of living life. I started a new job down here in North Carolina when they opened up this new private range club area thing. But for now, I'm just, you know, shooting different matches. I compete in USPSA and PRS for the most part, and kind of just hanging out for now.
Well, that was a lot to decipher. So, Greg, I'll back up a little bit. Did you grow up in a, pro gun family, or was that just, you became pro gun when you were in the military?
Um, my family was pro gun, especially like I'm from New York originally, out by Buffalo. So
Mhm.
you know, over the years, New York slowly got rid of guns and this and that. But I mean, I grew up shooting as much as I could,
Mhm.
shooting, hunting, stuff like that. So like I was always familiar with shooting guns.
Gotcha. So, what drove you to become a Marine?
Actually, it was just I did not like college. I did 2 years of schooling I was an accounting major,
Hmm.
and I just finished my second year, and I was like, yeah, I had nothing wrong with it. I didn't, have bad grades or anything. I just didn't like class. Um, so then I was like, well, what do I need to do with my life? And at the time, my mom was on a charity board for like, some hospital in Buffalo, and one of the other board members was a border patrol guy, and I was like, border patrol seems kind of cool. So I talked to him, and he was like, you need a degree or you need military service. Both of those two will put you to the top of the list for it. And I was like, well, I don't like school, so let's join the military. And at the time, my cousin had just gotten back from boot camp for the Marine Corps, and I was like, I'm not going to let him outdo me in anything. So went and enlisted in the Marine Corps.
Gotcha. So, are green crayons the preferred meal of choice?
No, 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 the purple ones.
The purple ones? Okay.
Yeah, I like grape's my favorite flavor, so I have to stick with the purple ones.
Oh, that's okay. I don't know. I think purple distinguishes its own flavor. I mean, there's grape, then there's like purple flavor. Like, have you ever had a grape Fago?
Yeah,
Yeah, like that is like obnoxiously like.
or like the Fanta, like the grape, like the strawberry. Yeah, the strawberry Fanta.
Mhm.
Like those are I love those.
Yeah,
A little too much.
but they don't make a crayon flavor in that.
No,
Maybe,
but they
maybe
do
they.
make the. It's funny too, because at like the PX, the exchange on base where like they sell everything that you
Mhm.
would ever need. Um, every once in a while, they'll have like the 256 pack of crayons. Like they'll market it like, yeah, come get your crayons. And it's like, come on, yes, we all
200
live with
so it'd be more funny is if it's 256 packs of crayons and they're only greens and only purples.
yeah.
That
It's
would be
it's
a
it's the Hulk pack.
yeah, there you go, the Hulk edition. So, if you use one to draw and then you snack on one, it's okay.
But yeah, they give you the 256 because they're expecting you to eat some.
Yep. You don't need all those colors to draw those pictures.
Yeah, who
Oh,
needs 256 colors to color in a piece of paper?
exactly. I mean,
Asinine.
yeah. It is what it is, but yes. So, um, so you served for 9 years. What was your, job designation?
I was in the infantry. I was a rifleman.
Okay. So, I guess I lost my train of thought, but that's okay. So, what you have any, spectacular memories, your top memory of being in the Marines?
Um, Nothing like singular. I mean, I've been to more places than I really wish to remember.
Mhm.
um, I think I don't know. In the infantry, like when you're in like an infantry unit, it's you know you're doing the same thing over and over again. It's kind of like not really like a blur, but everything just kind of meshes together.
Mhm.
Um, I would probably say when I went to Cuba on my first deployment, which was I had a great time there. Which is weird to say that you have a great time in Cuba, being
Yeah.
on Guantanamo Bay, but um, it was a beautiful like this. It was right in the summertime, so like right at the end of summer, like August, we went. So like the weather was real nice. Being right there on the in the bay on the coast, it was real nice. Um, Really, the only thing you couldn't do was leave base for obvious reasons, but
Mhm.
um, I had a great time there, especially being my first deployment. Like it was more relaxed. It wasn't like, high kinetic, stress environment, but I had a good time there.
Right. Now, did you issue the code red? Kidding. So, but
No, no,
the
no.
only thing I remember about Guantanamo Bay is, a few I love that movie. That movie's way too old and too long, though. Good movie. I think Jack Nicholson did a good job, but, I mean, I'm kind of a Jack Nicholson fan, but anywho,
It is a good movie.
it was a pretty good movie. So you were in Cuba for your first deployment. Did you, go over to, like, Okinawa at all during any of your deployments?
That was on my third deployment. I went to Oki. My second deployment, we went to mainland Japan, to a naval base in Yokosuka,
Mhm.
which again, great. If anyone ever goes to Japan, like Yokosuka and Yokohama is awesome.
Mhm.
Which is weird because it's like, like most people like go to Tokyo. Like Tokyo is nice. It's just so jam packed with people that it's like just almost stressful. But like Yokohama especially, it's like a nice little small little town. Not really that small, but in relation to Tokyo, it is. And there's like a lot of places to go sightsee. A lot of great restaurants. You can go shopping and get literally anything there.
Mhm.
Um, Mainland was a blast. I love mainland. Oki, on the other hand, was dreadful. That place is barren. There's nothing to do. The closest thing to go see or do is like a 35-minute bus ride away from base. It's basically you just sit on base and, you know, go to the bar there or go to the gym there and basically do nothing else but play video games.
Well, I mean, you can get your video gaming in then. I mean, if that's one of your things, like,
Yeah, but
everyone
doing
laughs
that
when
for 6 months straight, it's like, ugh, I want to go home.
yeah, I could imagine that. So you did go do some interesting things you got to go to different places on your deployments, and it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
the little countries when you get there and you go to Korea and Thailand and all that, but it's like,
Mhm.
I just want
Now,
to go home.
hey, nothing wrong with wanting to be home. It's pretty cushy and, comfy here in the home. So you said you just got out of the Marines. When you were looking at getting out of the Marine, when you were looking at, your time being up, did you already have a plan or what you were gonna do after you were out, or did it just you have to find it after you were out?
I did have a plan. There was my last unit that I was at the School of Infantry. I was a combat instructor, basically teaching the next, the kids would come out of boot camp, and all of the guys that had infantry contracts would come to the infantry training battalion, which is where I was, and you teach them, basic infantrymen, and then I taught basic rifleman course. Um, so like I did that for, geez, a little bit under 4 years, which is
Hmm.
kind of unheard of because you're only supposed to do 3 years there. Um, but at the time, we were having like a deficit in instructors. So they were like, hey, who wants to extend here? So I extended 6 months. And then by the time my 3.5 years was done, I only had like 5 months left. So they couldn't do anything with me other than if they were to send me back to an infantry unit, I wouldn't have done anything. They would have just stuck me in, a shop somewhere behind a desk doing paperwork. So I made a deal with the guy who's in charge of orders. I was like, hey, I'm getting out. This is when I'm getting out. This is when I'm supposed to be leaving. It's better for you to just keep me here and let me get out from here. And he was like, okay, I can make that work. So I
Hmm.
stayed there. I mainly, for the majority of the time, I mainly did marksmanship stuff. So when new instructors would come out of combat instructor school, they would come to the battalion, and then we would take them through the new Marine Corps marksmanship program, which was the advanced marksmanship training program at the time. They've renamed it like two or three times by now.
Hmm.
Um, and that's where I met most of the guys that work at Scoring Tech, which Scoring Tech is actually owned by Ken Nelson, who owns Practice Score. Um, and my one buddy Billy, he's been working there for as long as I can remember. And when I got out, he was like, "Hey, like 'cause my original plan was to actually move down to Texas to take a job at a nuclear facility to do static security." And he was like, "Hey, are you gonna move?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." And he was like, "Well, I want you to stay here." I'm like, "Well, just, then get me a job."
Hmm.
So when Scoring Tech got the contract from the Marine Corps, I think they signed it this past summer. Um, I'm kind of in line for when they start hiring in the Lejeune area. They just need to delineate all the funding for it.
Gotcha. So you then know Brian and
Yep.
Cardi B, who I think
Yep.
he's
I
with
know
Scoring
Josh.
Tech. Yeah, it's still funny. Always, I was listening to his podcast he was on the other day, and he was like, "Oh man, I like shooting a carry handle." I'm like, "You're like the only person in like your right mind who says that." Like,
He
I don't
loves
think
that little car 15.
yeah. I mean, it's a cool little like talking piece, but I'd just be like, I don't, I guess we came out with the 193s, so I mean, I guess it's kind of the same thing. Now,
Mhm.
what I'd really want to see is you put a dot on a carry on 193 mount size dot on a carry handle, and you're just like, I don't know how this works. Might be really comfortable for night vision. I guess I never know because I don't know.
I mean, yeah, passive aiming it would work, but
Yeah, yeah,
without
but
nods on, you're just kind of like just holding your head straight up.
yeah, yeah, you just get shot that way. I guess right. You're in
Yeah.
combat, like, oh, there goes another guy. But anywho, so that's cool. So you'll be looking that at least you got that figured out, I guess, when it's coming around. So you said primarily PRS and USPSA shooting.
Hmm.
Kind of very distinctly different from each other.
Yeah.
Which one did you start first?
PRS.
Okay. What drew you to shoot PRS?
I was always infatuated with like long range shooting.
Mhm.
When I was in the fast companies. So fast is like when you enlist in for like an infantry contract, you can go like straight up just 03, which is like the infantry designation, like XX, which
Mhm.
is like you're just straight infantry contract. And then you can also get security forces contract. Security forces, they typically, I mean, I don't even know what their mission is now, but when I was in there, they would either do static security at two of the naval nuclear facilities in Bangor, Washington, or Kings Bay, Georgia, or you can go into a FAST company, which is the Fleet Anti-Terrorism Security Team,
Mhm.
which they, for the most part, handled like expeditionary site security at embassies. So like they would have two companies in Spain, Bahrain, and Japan. And then inside of FAST, there is a designated marksman role. So like you'd go to the DM school, you'd train on an M110 SAS, and then that would be your primary role within your platoon. And I went to DM school in the end of 2016, and ever since then, like once I had a sniper rifle in my hand, I'm like, oh, this thing's sweet.
Hmm.
So when I came down to North Carolina, there was a range here that would run outlaw PRS matches ran by an old retired sniper named Lee Wadsworth. And Lee's great. I went to him with a chassis for my bolt gun in hand, and I was like, I want to build, a bolt gun. And he's like, okay, cool. And we sat down and put it together, and ever since then, I love the thing. So
Hmm.
any PRS match I can get my hands onto within with 4 or 5 hour range around North Carolina, I'm basically going and hitting if I can.
Fair enough. Now, what, six Creedmoor, 6.5, or
I
some
shoot,
other
yeah,
rifle?
I shoot 6.5 Creedmoor in open, and then 5.56 in tactical.
Okay. Which do you prefer, open or tactical?
Open for sure.
Well, yeah, everyone wants to shoot open. Only shoot open, guys, right? It doesn't matter what sport you're in. Open's the answer. So so for a novice like me, I know the generalities of PRS. So what's the difference between tactical and open?
Just caliber.
Okay.
Tactical will be your 5.56 or your 308. Typically in a more like tactical gun, which isn't
Hmm.
really a requirement, but it's mainly just caliber. And then open is any of your wildcats, your 6 mils, your 6.5s. Really, no one shoots anything bigger than 6.5.
Hmm. Yeah, because probably there's a ballistics drop off at some point, and it's just not worth the squeeze. I'm assuming.
More not really ballistics wise, but just recoil.
Hmm.
If you're shooting a 7 mil PRC, even a 6.5 PRC, like you're not needing the extra velocity for what you're shooting at. Most guys will take a 26 pound, six Creed or six BRA or six GT or something that has literally no recoil, and when they fire the gun, it's like, okay, that gun didn't move off target at all. You know.
Hmm.
That's basically the name of the game is fast little bullet with a heavy gun.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm assuming you get all the bipods and bags and rests you want. I'm assuming.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, depends on the match. Like sanctioned matches, you'll have, one bag available, one tripod, stuff like that. And each stage will have its own descriptions like, oh, you can use two bags on this stage or, no rear tripod on this stage, stuff like that.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah, which is pretty cool. So so you said you got into PRS first. So then, how did you find USPSA or practical shooting?
It actually started when I shot a Marine Corps match in 20. Well, I first shot my first Marine Corps match in 2019 in Japan.
Hmm.
Um, and then ever since then, like because every year they have like the division matches. So every region, the Marine Corps shooting team will come around and they'll be like, they go to Japan, Hawaii, California, North Carolina, and then they'll have one in Virginia too.
Hmm.
And it'll just be service rifle, service pistol type stuff. But they'll bring in like, an action rifle stage and then like a USPSA esque, pistol stage, and then they'll have like their long range rifles, stuff like that. And, ever since that first match in 2019, I was like, oh, competitions are cool, and before that I had no idea. I mean, I knew they existed, but I'd never had any interest in them or anything like that. And my master guns at the time, he was like, hey, you know, the battalion is putting together a team for a shooting competition, like a Marine Corps one. And we're like, okay. And he was like, you're going to be on the team. I'm like, all right, I don't know what that means, but let's do it. And the first year I shot, we won the team rifle trophy, and then I medaled individually in rifle and pistol. So ever since then, I was like, yeah, competitions are fun. I gotta keep going at it. And
Hmm.
every year since then, I tried to do it. Being back in North Carolina, but obviously being in an instructor role, the workload was just too much. Basically, up until 2023, when my battalion XO was like, "Hey, I know you've been wanting to do this for a few years. next time it comes up, you're doing it. Like, no questions asked. Like, I don't care what's going on, which was sweet. And the dude was awesome. And
Hmm.
2023 came around for the East match. I medaled in rifle, went up to Quantico in April. And because if you medal individually, you're invited to the championship match where all the people who have medaled around the divisions come and compete. And got up there for my first time at championships. And I was like, wow, I got to do this on my own. And I talked to Captain Scott at the time, Chris Scott. He actually runs the SIG Academy up in Connecticut, I think, now.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, when I get back, I'm thinking about, starting USPSA. And he was like, well, what do you want to shoot? And I was like, I don't know. Limited at the time. I was like, really interested in me. I don't know why. I think it was just, big mags, magwell. I was like, yeah, let's shoot limited. And then, I got back, went and bought a staccato, modded it out, and, the rest is history from there.
Hmm. So when you first shot your first USPSA match, was it in limited or did you shoot it in some other division?
It wasn't limited,
Okay. Were you shooting minor or major?
minor,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah. So you shot limited minor, which isn't, I guess, a bad thing, right? You're not trying to shoot production where it's you only get 10 rounds at that point. So
Mhm.
at least you weren't 100% behind the eight ball, right?
Yeah, I think I just didn't understand it at the time because I was like, you know, really, honestly, I wanted to shoot limited because I thought I could shoot nine major in it,
Hmm.
not knowing the rules yet. And I bought a staccato, and they're like, "Yeah, you can only shoot minor." I'm like, "Oh, damn! I really wanted major power factor."
Hmm.
And then I was like, "Well, I need to hit my shots because the major guys really don't have to hit their shots because they have major power factor."
Right.
I was like, "Oh, damn! It's behind the curve already. I just want to go and blast shit."
Right. So then you how quickly did you either get out of limited or get a major gun?
I stayed in minor. I started competing in USPSA in April of 23. And then I shot limited up until handgun nats in October.
Hmm.
And right up before handgun nats in September, I built a PCC on a whim. 2 a.m. I got an email about I think it was a Labor Day sale from Palmetto State, and you know it was like 299 for a complete AR-15, and I was like, well, if your ARs are that cheap, I wonder what your PCCs are like.
Hmm.
And just on a whim, I was like, you know what? It looks like fun. I'll try it. I already have an affinity for rifle shooting from work. Let's
Hmm.
see how it goes. And I bought that, and then I bought all the parts I wanted to switch on it because nothing on it looked appealing. And put it all together. And then there was a local like classifier match running. I shot that just in like the just to see where I would be at. And like one of the classifiers, I hit like a 93% master, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm good at this. And then after that, I was just like, well, let's wait until after handgun nats, finish out, the season in limited, and then start fresh from there.
Yeah, a very smart move to, finish it out and then move over. Yeah, and I can imagine that'd be, very, and if having an affinity for rifles, it definitely makes sense to shoot PCC.
Mm,
Because you're pretty much used to all the manipulations. I mean, the magazines are slightly different, but hey, it's okay if you can throw a stick. If you can throw a stick in in the hole, you can make it go bang bang, right?
exactly.
So you then after handgun nats, you switched over to PCC full time, or do you dabble in pistol at all from time to time?
It was for the most part full time. I did take my staccato and eventually transferred over to LO. I've yet to shoot it in LO. But it is an LO gun now. And then I did dabble in open a little bit, which I think kind of hurt me a little bit because I've always wanted to shoot open. Like open just looked like so much fun, just running around with 29 round big stick and just blasting away.
Right.
Um, and I borrowed a checkmate from my buddy, which I think kind of like put a bad taste in my mouth because the ammo I was shooting was left over from one of my buddies switched from 9 major to 38 in his uh, Infinity, and
Hmm.
he gave it to me just because he didn't need it anymore. And I tried to run that through a CZ, and it did not run
Yeah.
at all. So
Right.
that was like it was kind of like a kick down at that match. I was like, well, I mean, I'm not really shooting this seriously, but I really wish it would have ran.
Right. Yeah. You don't want that bad taste in your mouth. I mean, like, it's usually when it comes down to it is like people's guns. If they run, it's usually that their ammo might be bad. So then you're stuck with dealing with ammo issues. And yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that if if the checkmate wasn't like reamed out or something, it'll be a funky load. And I don't know. Lots of weird things can happen, especially when you're shooting open. That's for sure. I mean, I'll knock on my desk wood here and be like, yeah, my gun runs and my ammo's good. So continue to play ball.
It was very spicy, 9 major too. I think I chronoed it at like 181.
Ooh, yeah, that is spicy. Probably depending on how many holes are in what guns. Ooh, this is how you can tell I've been up all day. Got the yawns going by the time I start these things, and I'm like, oh Lord, try not to yawn a million times on the microphone, but we'll make it through. But so you're shooting PCC. So how long did it take you to make Grandmaster?
um, about 4 months. It was like I started when I initially classed. I was barely A. I was like 76% A. Um, about 2 weeks after that, I hit master in the middle of October, and then um, probably about 3.5 months later, that's like February of 24, I hit grandmaster.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you put some work in. You had to figure out, the rifle, obviously.
Hmm.
Other than that, I mean, it's pretty much like riding a bike, right?
Yeah, it was a very easy skill to pick up, especially being when I was an instructor. Like all we did was shoot rifle. Like we'd always have like our instructor development stuff where in between our classes we would go out and just pull tens of thousands of rounds of 5.56 and just shoot just to have fun. Plus
Mhm.
two, dealing with doing our demonstrations for students and stuff like that. Like you always had to really, you had to, when you're teaching them marksmanship, if you can't do what you're teaching them, then they're kind of like, oh, why do I gotta listen to this guy?
Right.
So I
Well, the
was
nice
always shooting a lot.
yeah, well, the nice thing is now you can be like GM and PCC, so suck it. You better listen to me. I'm a GM, god damn it.
Oh yeah, none of those kids gave a shit about that.
Lick my boots. And yeah.
Privates don't care about anything.
Yeah, other than do I have to go run again?
Yeah, how do I get out of training? What can I say to not be here?
Yeah. Oh, I gotta go to the nurse. I gotta go to the infirmary. I don't feel good. I
Yeah,
don't
I got my
I'm
foot hurts. I have shin splints. Like, okay, kid, like so do I. Like, walk.
everybody else does, yeah. I had a swimming coach in high school. I think it was about by the end of the one seasons. I'm like, I got tendonitis in my shoulder, and he's like, so does everybody else. Now back in the fucking pool, and I'm like, yes, coach. And it was worse because I did breaststroke, so like you rotated weird. You didn't rotate like up and down like this.
Mhm.
It was that other motion. And I'm like, oh my lord, it was always a bothersome when you overextended. I still
Oh
can't
yeah,
like raise my arm very long at like this any higher.
yeah,
Like after like a minute, I'm just like, nope, I'm done.
yeah. I swam in high school too. It was a fun time.
Yeah. But now, were you a freestyler or were you a stroker?
No, I swam fly and I am.
Yeah, me too. Bleh. No, thank you. It was like I was not the best flyer. I had a legal fly. He's like, just don't come in last. We need 1 point off of your ass. I'm like, okay,
Just get fit. Get the 1 point.
get the 1 point exactly. Or yeah, it was always the worst. And then I was like, oh, I, I enjoyed swimming. I just wish I could have figured out how to stop eating like I was always swimming because the
Hmm.
calorie burn was so nice. You could pretty much eat anything and be okay.
Oh yeah,
And then you're like, "Oh, it's springtime. Swimming is over." And you still eat like you're swimming every day and you're just like, "Bleh."
it's baseball time. Like, oh no, I'm gaining 10 pounds a season now.
Yeah. No, and that was my problem is I didn't do a spring sport. Like I didn't do a
Mhm.
spring sport after swimming. I think my best shape in high school, I was a sophomore. I did summer, so I did football that season. That was fun. Other than it was such a pain in the ass because I was in the marching band too. So you're dealing with the band director and the football coach. It's just like too much shit going on at once, so I only did that one season. Then,
Yeah.
but I swam all 4 years. I was primarily a breaststroker, but I yes had legal fly and a legal backstroke turn. So I was like, you got to do the IM too. I'm like, oh motherfucker, like, and the worst part is you have to do the fly first. Like, I mean, I guess I don't know. How do you feel about that? Do you think that was the worst, or the best, or the the worst thing to get over with?
I think it was the best because you could go all out in your 50 fly,
Hmm.
and then as soon as you touch and you go to the backstroke, you're like, all right, now I'm kind of chilling. I'm relaxing a little bit. I'm still keeping good pace, but I'm still going hard. But I'm also
Hmm.
kind of getting a little breather. And then you finish your backstroke and you push into breaststroke, and you're like, all right, now I got to kick it up again.
Yeah,
But
and then turn hell over to fucking go to freestyle.
yeah, and then freestyle, you sprint it out, and then you get to the end and you hawk up a lung inside the gutter.
You know exactly how I felt. Oh yeah. Now yeah. Oh, what was I was gonna say something, but it was yeah. Where was it? Oh, that was what it is. Now I grew up in a smaller school. Not that many.
Mhm.
I think my graduating class was like 250, 300 people. So
Oh, that's a lot
total.
for me.
Oh, okay. So did you guys have a 25-yard length pool then?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you had to do one turn each, and then you got to transition. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of jealous of the people who have like the 50 yard or the 50 meter 50 yard pool lanes. Then I was like, okay, you don't have to. I don't have to turn over. I just have to transition. And
There was a few high schools in New York that had the Olympic-sized pools, but it was like far and few between.
hmm. Yeah, I liked being on the relays. That was one of my favorite things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was usually like, "Get your ass off the goddamn block." And I don't know if you ever did this in, high school, was you'd, pressure the guy to, like, leave as soon as possible, and
Mhm.
you're, like, right we had our hands waving back here. I'm
Yeah.
like, "You better move. I'm gonna smack," or it was with the kickboard, and you're like,
Yeah.
"Whack," and then it's like, "Get going." I think more people were too hesitant of getting, like, DQ'd with the transition than being, like, on time. They would always be super late on the leave.
Yeah.
It's kinda
But
like go
if
ahead.
you have a high enough block, like relay starts are great.
Mhm.
That's why I loved it, like being like the 200 medley relay. It was like I don't have to go first. I could just sit on the back of the block and just watch this dude come in and just jump like 15 feet through the air, you know.
Mhm.
And by the time I come up to do my first stroke, I'm already damn near halfway down the pool.
Yeah, exactly. That was always a good thing too. Until you had the guy who's, like, he's choking on water trying to do the backstroke in like, into the wall, and it's like,
Oh yeah, he's trying to like flutter kick that last little like 6 inches. Like, dude, just get there.
"Yes, get there. I gotta make it look close." Like, that's the
Yeah,
like, for the they're like, especially the referees, they're checking everyone's lane. I'm like, "Okay, he didn't leave look like he left too early," so it's like, "Okay, we're good there."
I didn't
Yeah.
see a hand come up, so I think we're good.
Yeah, exactly. And that's always the worst when you find out you get your relay team gets DQ'd because of somebody screwed you.
Yeah, someone false starting, like, oh, come on, dude. Like,
Mhm.
we beat the closest other team by like 5 seconds, and you couldn't have did left like a half second later.
Yeah, exactly. Good times. I wish I could get back in the pool, but I get up early enough for work. I don't wanna get up any earlier for work.
I did that when like the pools on base they would open. They would open at weird hours. Like some would open like really early for like an open swim, but you'd go there to and it would just be packed full of people, and it
Right,
would
so
just
you
be
couldn't really
terrible.
lap swim.
No, like you'd get like to like the deep end, like the 5 foot line, and like there'd be a line. It's like, come on, just get out of the way. Like if you're gonna just chill here and talk because this is your PT, like go do it on the bench or something. Like I want to swim.
Yes, exactly. Now, yeah, good times. Swimming was good times. Some harsh memories, but some good times.
It was good time. It, good memories too, but
Yeah. Now, did you alright, by the end of the season, did you have to shave all down, like, you shave your whole body and stuff?
oh yeah.
Okay. So we weren't the only ones tortured with that.
Oh no, I mean like when you're like because we had a varsity and a JV team because my school was so small. Like we only
Mhm.
had like 110 people per class.
Okay.
So we had basically, if you were, an eighth grader or a freshman that could put up the times, you were swimming the varsity races.
Mhm.
Um, and it was like when you're younger, swimming JV, they're like, yeah, you're gonna shave your head for A meet and C meet and sectionals and stuff like that. And it's like, get up to your like sophomore, junior year. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna shave my head. I'll wear a
Yeah.
cap.
Yeah, we by the end of our seasons, we always shaved our heads, one, because I don't think we really had a choice. I mean, there
Mhm.
was a choice, but it wasn't like a, "You really
Yeah.
don't get to make this choice, you're shaving your heads." By the time your hair is also probably pretty destroyed, no one
Oh
was
yeah.
ever really good about, like, pre-washing their hair to, like, put it in the cap. They're always like, "Well, I'm getting in the pool."
Yeah.
That's the
Take
one
off
thing
the
that
cap and rip out half your hair.
Yeah, exactly. Then I gave up on the I tried to keep my hair as decent as possible through most of the season, but I'm just like, "It's not worth it anymore."
Yeah, and you'd have like the teams. There'd always be one team, like no matter what, they'd show up to like sectionals and they would have their hair like dyed bleach blonde. That's like, okay.
Nope, because somebody decided to do that at the last
Like I'd,
meet.
I'd rather shave my head than bleach my hair.
Yeah. Yeah. We, uh we, uh we got fun at we had a lot of fun torturing the freshmen, though, doing that, though. That was always a hoot.
It's always the same. Whether
Yeah.
you're torturing freshmen in high school or, you're torturing your privates in the Marine Corps. It's all
Yeah.
fun.
Well, until they learn that they don't really have to listen, but, like, I had a big enough school, you had to earn points. So if you were good enough and you were young, like, if you're a freshman or something, if you were good enough and you were racing in the varsity point, you had to get you gained points, and eventually
Mhm.
you'd get your varsity letter because there was just one giant team, but, the guys who'd get their varsity letter by the end of the season, and it was like it was interesting. I enjoyed swimming. I did not enjoy my coach, but I enjoyed swimming.
Hmm. I remember thinking in our school, it wasn't even like you're on the varsity team, you just get the letter, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly.
Yeah, we had to earn swimming, like, so, every point you gained in a meet would equate into trying to earn points for your letter,
Hmm.
but that was typically only when you were an underclassman. So it was
Yeah.
cool to if you're an underclassman and you got your letter, but as soon as you became a junior, you're pretty much like, "Hey, you work hard enough, you're just not that great, so you still get your letter."
You're the only one in your class without a letter. Here you go.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's the I never got a varsity jacket, like, I mean, my family just never wanted to get one, nor did I wanna wear it, like, everybody wore them around, I'm like, "No, thanks." But, there's always the guy who's got, like, nothing offense to him, I mean, I was a band geek too, but, like, that's the only thing they have a letter in is, like,
Mhm.
band, and I'm like, "I don't know if I would've bought that guy."
I don't even think I think I got a varsity jacket. I don't even remember now.
Yeah, I didn't waste the 300 some odd dollars on the varsity
Yeah.
jacket scam.
Or the class ring.
I still have that. I just wanna chuck it down a river or something, I don't know, it's that bad, but, anywho, I guess we should get back into shooting a little bit, but I love that little deep dive down into the swimming hole. See, it's a random conversation with tangents, it's great, so, PCC, so you said, essentially, beginning of '24, you really started, like, cracking onto PCC hard, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so your first major match would have that been South Carolina then with the
Yes.
PCC? Okay.
South Carolina.
So, I mean, you're in the odd states, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, where the staff reset thing is still a thing.
It's awesome.
Um, so I bet you probably quite enjoyed South Carolina.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I mean, all of like, honestly, there isn't a match in Area 6 that I really had any bad things at.
mhm,
The staff is always the same at every one. Um, Staff reset is great, and it's just like I don't know. I know Todd Holmes does South Carolina for the match director.
mhm.
Um, I forget who did North Carolina last year.
Oh, last year's North Carolina. Oh, who?
I think it was Ben Berry.
Yeah, well, yeah, Ben and Stephanie probably. Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, like even like local matches, like in North Carolina, like they're great. I've far and few between have I had any kind of match down here where I'm just like, yeah, I'm not coming back.
right. So, what do you consider your home range or the match you always go to each month?
I mean, there's a few. I kind of hit a 3 hour like bubble around Jacksonville here,
Hmm.
and it's great because most of the matches, like they work in not really in tandem, but like first weekend is always Sir Walter. Second weekend, you have a few different matches. My second weekend favorite, although it's a little far, is Rowan Practical Shooters.
Hmm.
Um, it's like a 3.5 hour drive, so I don't really hit that one every weekend. I try to if I can. Another great match. Third weekend, you have a few to choose from. But the third weekend, like up and comer, is Low Country
Hmm.
down in like Tabor City, and then fourth weekend is Pitt County up in Greenville,
Hmm.
and it's great because like you're hitting a great match every weekend, and like you don't have to like fight like, oh, it's like two good matches on the same weekend. Who do I go to?
Right.
Um, it's good. And then some other matches. We had a local one here. They used to do like third Sunday, um, just to like offset from everyone else going to every other match. But
Right.
I think they've since stopped. I think the range got sold. I
Hmm.
really don't have like a home range for a match per se, just because there isn't one. There isn't a club here, East Coast Fire, that does a match out at where I shoot bolt gun at Alliance Outdoors.
Hmm.
They're just getting back into it. They took a little bit of a hiatus through the end of last year, but now they put out a match schedule this year, which is good for it's like 20 minutes down the road.
Oh, that's not bad at all. Except your car loses about 10 minutes of pace on other vehicles. Like,
Apparently.
I guess. I mean, it's not that that person has a lead foot at all, but you said
Yeah, it's
your car's
it's the
slow.
$90,000 car,
Yeah.
which is funny because every time I bring that up, I just get more expensive. I think now up to like $170,000 car.
It just doesn't have warp speed built into it. That's the problem.
I know it's crazy.
I was always laughing about that. Like, Greg and I left at the same time, and he's still behind me.
It's like, yeah, because I'm driving, 82 and a 70, and you're probably cranking it out at like 95 on, your car driving itself. And it's like, yeah, no wonder you got there before me.
Well, don't forget the chicken noises in the car.
Oh, yeah.
The pre-recorded chicken noise. Inside jokes, guys. You got to pay attention to the stories, man. Like that's
You got to know the situation.
exactly. People be like, "Why are they talking about like losing 10 minutes?" If you know, you know, right?
Yeah.
And maybe
Why do chickens matter so much? I don't know. They matter.
yeah, silkies are the best though. Not gonna lie.
I love my silkies.
You know. But yeah, so you just need to get we got to put the turbo speed back in the car or the warp analyze. I don't know. We got to put something in that thing so you don't lose any more time.
I just need to get a new car
I don't know. You
at
just got
this
out of the
point.
Marines. How can you afford a new car? I mean, you barely can afford the crayons.
Oh, I get no. The VA pays nicely when you get out.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true too. Yeah. Now, were you when you were in the Marines, were you living on base or were you living off base?
Oh no, I've always been living off base.
Okay.
Um, Even when I was married, and then when I got divorced, like even then, I was like, I'm not moving back on base.
Right, because you get more of a stipend to live off base, right?
Yes, you get a housing allowance, and then you also get your meal card back. So it's like the $300 that they take out of your pay automatically. You get that back to pay for food.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, even as a combat instructor, that didn't matter because we never got meal cards because we worked such odd hours that they never allowed us to go to the chow hall to get food. So they would always just give us that money anyways.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, if you got weird hours and you're on the range, it's kind of difficult to make scheduled times. Oh, it's time to go to the chow hall, 30 minutes away. See you guys in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Because I'm
And
not
even
starting my
then, it's like,
lunch until I get there.
and even then, like I have too much stuff to put it all into, you know, a single barracks room with one closet. I think in this room alone here, I probably got like 25 guns that can't really bring in the barracks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, that'd be quite interesting trying to like I can't fit it. I'm living off base. Well, especially if you got to keep the house in the divorce, it makes things easy, place to live.
I never did. I mean, we never because
Oh.
when I was married, I was living in Virginia, and
Mhm.
then I got orders to North Carolina. She was in the Navy in Virginia, so she had to stay because apparently to the Navy, Virginia to North Carolina is considered co-located, which makes no sense, but it's neither here nor there. So I came down here. I got into an apartment, and then when I deployed, came back. I just got another apartment, and then it's so cheap to live here that like even without getting my housing allowance every month. Like I was never really like, oh no, I can't pay my bills this month. Like, you
Right.
know.
Thank you for checking out another episode of Manny Talks Shooting. I greatly appreciate it. And if you could do me a favor, please go patronize our partners when you are available. We have always, as the title sponsor, G2 Custom Guns. We've got Outdoor Dynamics, Make Stuff Better, 2 Alpha Apparel, Range Panda, Laugh and Load, Hunter's HD Gold, and Southern Bobby Q. Now, thank you. Let's get on with this episode. Yeah. So speaking of that, like you have an apartment, you get deployed, like just you don't people you have anybody to check on it, or what is it just like a meh?
I mean, you can keep it if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then when you deploy, you get like a deployment letter that basically it's a kind of like an end all be all like exemption to get out of any contract you want.
Gotcha.
So like, when I had my apartment and I deployed, I would just take my deployment letter to the apartment office. Like, here you go. I'm deploying. Here's my letter as proof. I'll be out by this day. And there's nothing. They legally they have to accept it and be like, okay, yeah, cool. You're cutting your lease. That works for literally anything. Like, you have internet, you have cable. You go to your local Spectrum office. Like, here's my deployment letter. I'm leaving on this day. Turn the service off. I'll bring you your equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny too because I've been screwed over so many times by Spectrum. Like I'll get back from my deployment and then like I'll get a notification or I'll get something. My mail will finally all come at once, and it's like a letter. Like Spectrum's like, you have $600 in overdue stuff. I'm like, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Japan for the last 6 months. What do you mean I have X amount of money? It's like they're such a pain in the ass
Yeah.
for going on deployment.
Yeah. So then what do you do? Just put it all in a storage unit and call it a day and then ship out?
Yeah, I mean, um, even if like you're living in a barracks room, the Marine Corps will pay to have your stuff stored for you. Um, so like if you want to hand it to them, you can. It's not really the best choice when it comes to that, because half the time you get your boxes back and shit's broken in it. But
Yeah, because the privates who got stuck on storage room duty decided to go smashy smash.
yeah, because it's all held on base in a warehouse, just this warehouse is for your unit, put all your stuff in there. And they have like the lots on base where you can park your car and stuff like that, but it's like I'll just handle it myself and store my own stuff.
Right. Makes sense. Smarter that way. You have less broken things.
Yeah, plus like at the end of the day, like I know that I'm the only one with the key to it. Like I don't got some bored guy just going through and like, oh, what's in here, what's in here, I'll just retape this box back up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Privacy on your stuff.
Yeah.
So your first major match in PCC was South Carolina. Then what match was it? What was your next major?
It was Delmarva in West Virginia.
Okay.
Which great match. I love Delmarva.
Delmarva? Was there a bunch of rain at Delmarva?
Yes,
Okay. Yep. I
it
remember.
was it was bad that Saturday.
Yeah. And then the Sunday flight had no problems at all. It's like what the
Not at all. It was sunny.
Yeah, that's the worst thing about shooting, the multiple day matches. It's like great. I shot through shitty conditions and now yeah, and then you get to shoot in the perfect rain.
Well, it worked out for me at South Carolina because I shot Sunday morning. I guess Sunday all day for South Carolina,
Right.
and Friday and Saturday they both pissed rain. So I was like,
Right.
oh, the one time I luck out and I don't get a bad day.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that, is your on your PCCs or is it a closed emitter?
No.
Oh, so you're shooting in like an open emitter, like a SRO or something like that.
Yeah, I shoot for my main dot. I shoot 510C, a hollow sun, and
Hmm.
then my offset is a hollow sun 507 comp.
Okay. So yeah, rain could definitely mess you up if it really wanted to.
It can. I mean, I've shot in the rain before with it. I've never really like seen or had experienced any issues with an open emitter with rain.
Hmm.
I think it's more or less just because when I shoot, I shoot with both eyes open anyways, so like I'm really not looking through it. I'm kind of just staring at the steel or the paper with my left eye and just kind of putting the red dot where I want to hit type deal. So I've never really had a problem with rain with open emitters.
Gotcha. So I guess we'll talk about I'll move to Area 5 a little bit. But
Mm,
when I met you at Area 5, you were not the
mm.
happiest of campers.
No, I was
No.
having a very bad
And you were
day.
shooting the all day Saturday flight? So you're
Yes.
shooting okay. Which wasn't a bad flight because you guys had a like I didn't understand it. Like there was like there was 2 all day Fridays and 2 all day Saturdays, and those squads, like people signed up, they were full. Half the people on the squads showed up. I'm like,
Yeah.
how can you guys just like dump that kind of money? It's like to not shoot the match.
Well, that's like at Area 8. I shot all day Saturday at Area 8 in June,
Hmm.
and we had like, and it was a smaller squad. It was like, 8 to 10, actually 10 people, I think.
Hmm.
But there was only like 6 of us that showed up. It
Yeah,
was
that's gotta
great.
suck. Well, for
Oh, no, it
pacing,
was
it's gotta.
great. Well, I mean, pacing, yeah, but like we were always the squad, like on like the squad in front of us heels.
Hmm.
Um, and like I think before we hit lunch of the 14 stages, we shot 9 of them just because we were just blazing through all the stages so quickly,
Yeah.
which kind of hurt us after lunchtime because we had like an hour break before we could shoot a stage after lunch. But I mean, like, it was great. I had a really good time at Area 8.
Yeah, so I mean that is the nice thing, for sure when it comes to being able to churn and burn. But the worst part is, yeah, you get stuck either at lunchtime
Hmm.
or you're sitting behind a squad. You're sitting behind 3 squads because you're you're not moving slow in either of the other squads, but there's that one squad ahead of you, or they're stuck on the backup, and you're like, great.
Yeah, they had 3 reshoots, and like, oh, come on, dude.
There's another 10 minutes. I'm not gonna get back.
It's always the Revo guys that reshoot too.
Yeah, after they pick up, I gotta find all my moon clips, guys. My moon clips. But yeah, so you were shooting. You guys started on like the probably one of the harder stages at Area 5, the turning target state. Wasn't that your guys' first stage?
I know we started on stage 1, I think. Yeah,
Oh, so you started on the first stage of the match then. So that's not
yeah.
terrible then.
We swept left to right at Buckeye, or
Gotcha.
at whatever range at Cardinal.
Yeah, Cardinal. Yeah. So that's not too bad then. Yeah. So you guys moved pretty efficiently. You didn't get stuck behind anybody except when you guys got backed up to the. I wouldn't say it was a backup, but it was the standard stage, the 2 string strong hand weak hand. Well, for you, strong side, weak side.
Yeah.
With the stripper pole
Oh,
target.
yeah, that I hate that thing.
The one
It's
time where it's like,
stupid
yeah, it's
target.
like I'm trained to shoot alphas. I shoot minor. I must shoot alphas, and then you're like,
Yeah,
damn it, Mike, fuck.
yeah. I was like, God. I was going over to my head too. I'm like, you know, do I try and squeeze the line burner alpha on there and risk it on a Virginia stage, or do I just take the Charlies and go? And I was like, on the first string, I was like, all right, let me try and do it. And then the second string, I'm like, let's go back to just be playing it safe.
Right. Yeah, I don't blame you there. That was not the stage to lose points on,
No.
because that they can you can't win the match there, but you definitely can lose your match there. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, because I think it was only like an 80 point, like an 80 point. Yeah, I mean it's not super high point value stage, but it wasn't low either.
Yeah, it was what 24 rounds if I remember right, because I think it was 2 per 3 targets each side. Maybe
Yeah, something like that.
it was still bullshit.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, did
Yeah.
not like that one.
Yeah, so you get stuck behind. You had to wait a little bit for that one, and then you guys were able to move on. But yeah, that stage was it hurt a lot of people's feelings. But it's a it's one match. It's one stage out of the match. What'd you think of the
Yeah,
mini bike?
I like the mini bike.
Yeah,
I always kind of like stuff like that. Like half the time they're like, yeah, I like it. Other people are like, yeah, it's gimmicky. It's like I don't really mind it. It's different. It's fun. It's not like I had to get on the bike under time. You know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it
At
really
least they were
wasn't like
nice.
it was like a hard thing. You know.
Yeah, you were at least straddling. You were already on the bike. It's not like you had to like shoot a whole stage, hop on the bike, drive away. Do a reload off the table and shoot some stuff.
Do 2 donuts before you're allowed to engage any target.
Yeah. This isn't 3 gun now, but yeah, you know what I mean. But yeah, so I thought it was pretty cool. I wish I didn't shoot that match, but I was there. I was a little burned. I couldn't bummed I couldn't shoot that. I didn't shoot the match, but
Well, I
I
mean,
was lazy.
Area 5 though. I mean, yeah, the stripper pole like Virginia count stage that made me angry.
Hmm.
Not really. That really didn't make me angry. The thing that made me angry was my gun. I think it was on like stage 3 or whatever. I had
Mhm.
like a catastrophic malfunction with it.
And that was pretty much a
And
brand new gun, right? That was the new JP5?
brand new.
Yeah. I mean,
I
well,
think I
dude,
shot 500 rounds through it.
okay, so it wasn't absolute, so you at least test fired it, and then I bet it was flawless those first 500 rounds though, right?
I had one malfunction with it, a failure to eject.
Mhm.
Um, but I thought it was just a one-off, like, oh, whatever, you
Right.
know, at a local match before, and I really didn't think about it. Maybe it's like, oh, like maybe it was just bad brass, I couldn't find the casing, so I was like, maybe the rim just stripped or whatever it was. I don't know. Um, but then on that one, I forget the one stage, it was like the two targets on the left, and you got to get through the port and go down and far, and then two targets on the right. The three per stage.
Mhm.
Um, I engaged the first target, and then like I went to engage the second one, and like no click, just dead trigger. And I looked, at my ejection port, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like I see a piece of brass, failing to eject. I'm like, all right. So I drop my mag, rip the bolt to the rear, put the mag in, rip it again, dead trigger. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, why is this happening?
Mhm.
And I take the mag out, put it in my pocket. I hold my bolt to the rear, and I look in my chamber in my upper receiver, and I got a piece of brass backwards with the head or the case head against my barrel extension. I have another piece of brass trying to go, or it's sideways, covering my chamber, and then I have a live round trying to get chambered, all in one.
Ugh.
And I mean, I've shot rifle for years. I've induced every single kind of malfunction or stoppage that you can do to a rifle. And I was like, I stopped and I was looked at the RL. I was like, I can't make this safe. He's like, what's going on? And I showed him. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah, it is.
On a brand
Definitely.
new gun too. I was so like distraught. Like that right there just like killed everything.
Right, yeah,
So
2 alpha, 16
16
mics,
mics.
5, penalties not to shoot at.
Yeah, I was like, what is how did this happen? And the more I looked at it, I compared my JP5 with another one, and I'm looking at it, I'm trying to figure out how did it happen, and I came to the conclusion that it was my ejector, because like I guess my JP5 had like an upgraded generation ejector, and clip on it and all that stuff, and I was like, oh, that's got to be it. So I called JP and I'm like, hey, your gun royally fucked over my entire match at Area 5. You
Mhm.
know, what the hell is going on? It's brand new. So they sent me replacement parts for it. I put the ejector in, test fired it again. Same thing happening. And I'm like, all right, w- this can't be happening. It's a
Mhm.
$3,500 gun and it's shitting the bed on me. And come to find out, it wasn't the ejector spring, any of that at all. It was my extractor spring, which I was like, how it's a brand new gun. Like extractor springs wear out over time, but they say like 3,000 rounds, replace it. But the thing has less than 1,000 on it. Now, how is this happening? But as soon as I replaced the extractor spring, it ran flawless.
Yeah. So what, every 1,000 rounds you're gonna replace the extractor spring?
Yeah, I just put in like a $300 order at JP for firing pin springs and extractor springs and all that for this coming year. Because I'm like, I'm not getting caught on my feet again or off my feet again with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just rough, especially when it's a brand new gun and you're like, "Man, I was gonna have a good time, I was gonna shoot a good match," and then you're just like, "Well, there goes." On the 3rd stage, it's like this actually, I think it was the 2nd stage of your match because that was
Oh
stage
yeah,
2 stage 2, and you're like, "I got 14 more to go."
I know. Well, yeah, because oh no, actually, come to think of it, no, I started. That was the third stage because I started on the fixed time.
Oh, okay. So, yeah,
Because
your
it ran flawless. Fixed time, it ran great. Stage one, it ran great, and then that came around. I was like, all right, what's going on? And then I think on stage six, the last one before the fixed time,
Mhm.
um, when that RO like prematurely stopped me because he didn't pick up my first shot for
Yeah,
all the
I
reasons.
still play that in my brain because I was scrolling your Instagram and I'm like, "Why would he think that?" Like, I don't understand that, like
Like, even from, like, a common sense perspective, I'm like, let the guy I mean, your opinion, would you rather be stopped early? Like, would you rather burn the whole 32 rounds down, fight through it, right? So you had issues, right? Burn the 32 rounds down, then find out you couldn't get your accurate time, so then you still had to reshoot it? Or would you rather find out 6 rounds in and then like, "Oh, at least I only burned 6 extra rounds, not 42 extra rounds."
I mean, if that's the case, I mean, I would definitely would not have wanted to get stopped in the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, I think I would rather run the whole stage just because then I can, like, okay, that stage plan was good. Like my marks were good. I hit my, I know where to aim. I know where to look, stuff like that. It's kind of like a little trial run. I'd rather do that than,
Yeah,
like the first 6 rounds in at that back port. And I was like, which
yeah,
sucks too because it was, like the two paper and the two steel that I hit down there, the two paper or two alpha, and I hit the steel first shot, and it was a great start. On my reshoot, I had another failure to eject.
yeah, that's never rough. That's always rough. I mean, the RO learned, I am assuming he then did end up apologizing, right?
He
Like,
did,
okay,
and he was sincere about it. It was just like when it happened, I saw I was already having a shit day from stage three, and then the fixed time and all of that, and then that just happened. Like when he came over and he said stop, like everyone that was like watching me from my left, they're looking at me, like my facial expression, they're like, oh no, we don't know what he's gonna do. Like, and I was just, I wasn't angry. I mean, I was angry, but I was more or less just so like dumbfounded when he said like, I didn't pick up your first shot, that I was just such in shock that I was like, I can't even like, I'm not gonna yell. Like,
Mhm.
I'm just over it at this point.
Yeah, that definitely, that'd be a at least you were had your cool for that one, right? Because I could see that going where, like, yeah, you hear somebody cuss out the RL, it's like, well, great, now you might not have been DQ'd from the stage, but you got DQ'd from the match because you got 10-6 for unsportsmanlike, you know?
Yeah, and
That'd be
I'm not. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I used to get very angry.
mhm,
Especially like at like stupid stuff like that. But like at the end of the day, like when as soon as I heard stop, like I mean, there's not like I can be like, why'd you stop me? Let me
yeah,
go. This and that. Like I knew, like I was like, all right, well this run's done. Like I need to,
yeah.
it's done and over with. Like I can be mad about it, or I can just try and shoot. It's just really unfortunate that on my reshoot that I had another malfunction. I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, and did you have any malfunctions going, in the back zones at all? Like the dirt birds?
Um, no, I didn't. I almost thought I did. Um, just because I forget what stage it was, like 13, 12 or 13 maybe, or
Mhm,
like 11, somewhere around there. It was like the zone three, like one of like the ones to the left in zone three,
mhm.
um, where I shot, and then as I broke position and I moved out of it, I felt like a really weird like recoil impulse that wasn't, like what I should feel normally. And I was like, oh no, I really hope that when I move and I try to shoot again that this thing shoots. So I didn't want to look at it. But thankfully when I, got to my next position, I shot and the gun went off. I'm like, oh thank God.
Yeah, that is good. So, a rough Area 5 for sure, multiple reasons, but then and that was August, and then you had until, like, pretty much October for PCC Nationals, right?
Well I did Area 5 and then Area 6.
Oh, yeah, because those were back to back. Yep.
Yep. And then the 2 weekends after Area 6 was the Carolina Classic and then Georgia and then Nats.
I love your name in there. It's Greg, super cool nickname. I don't know, but,
Well, two reasons why I did that. One, it's I needed to manipulate the squad roster because it was alphabetical,
mhm,
and I needed to be away from Sarah, so like I could record her and then she could record me.
mhm.
Um, because it was M then R, and I'm like, well, she's MO, I'm RO. They're alphabetically they're right next to each other, so I needed to manipulate it somehow to get away from that. Um,
Gotcha.
and then two, it was I was just like everyone always puts a nickname. Like I don't have a nickname, so it must be super cool nickname.
There you go. So, I'm assuming did it went off of the S then, so you at least had, like, at least one spot more on
Yeah.
the
So like my first name in practice score was just Greg, and then my last name was super cool nickname Robinson.
Mhm. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, mine doesn't help me either way. I'm still A in the first letter and then M on my last name, so it's like I'm still in the middle.
Yeah.
Even because my nickname is Manny, so either way, I'm still the same out, phonetically. I'm like, damn it.
Yeah.
There's one
Well, at
guy.
Georgia, I had to do it at Georgia too, but for Georgia, I was like, at first, when I first registered for Georgia and I was trying to manipulate the roster, I was like, I think it was like Greg D. Class Robinson or something, like something stupid like that.
Yeah, super
And then I
early in
was
the
like,
roster. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, well, I don't want to, I may come off like, sound like a dick,
Mhm.
being a GM saying D class. I was like, oh, I'll just put, so I just put Greg GM Robinson.
Oh, there you go.
So when it was Bruce Gary on his stage. He like started screaming. He's like, Greg, Grandmaster Robinson. And I'm like, oh Lord, here we go.
And then you bomb the stage, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's one guy locally. His name his first name is an M. His last name is a Z. So
Mm.
he pretty much you're always gonna go last. So then he was like, "Well, I don't want to be first ever." So he puts a Z in front of his first name, so it's ZZ. I'm like, "Oh, you're just a dick." And I'm like, if I was in practice score, I'd be deleting that Z and be like, "No, you're gonna go in the middle of the alphabet like you're supposed to." Those are the things that piss me off, I guess, especially from coming from like a stats side. Like, I'm like, no, screw you. You can't be double Z. Like, or well, guess what? We're telling all the staff last name, reverse order, Z
Yeah.
through A. That would flip some people out so bad. They'd be like, huh, huh, uh-huh.
Yeah,
I gotta
because
go
they're
first.
expecting, they're like, I got 10 shooters worth of prep time to watch how they shoot and this and that. And you're like, oh, guess what, homie, you're going first.
I want to do that. I'm gonna do that for a local. I'm just gonna be like, no, we're gonna go alphabetical reverse. Sucks to be you guys today.
Yeah, it's
I
like, you
think I'll
can't do that. I'm like, yeah, I can. I can do whatever the
yeah.
hell I want.
See this. As long as we're consistent, we're going from.
Yep.
As long as we go top down, as long as the top's correct. I mean, I like going first, honestly, unless it's the first stage of the day. But that's usually at a local where I'm just like, I'm still setting up the match, or for some reason, or I'm helping doing something. I'm like, I haven't even looked at our first stage yet, guys.
Yeah.
I'm more worried
I'm
about
still
like,
loading mags.
no, I do that before I leave. I do that the night before.
You
So
leave
I
your
don't
mags loaded the night before?
just the night before. I don't want to have to worry about it in the morning.
Your mag springs hate you.
No, they work real good because they're MBX springs and followers in MBX tubes. It's never failed me. It's always been a good thing. But I don't leave them loaded more than I have to. Like if it's a multi-day match,
Hmm.
I'll unload them all at the end of the first day of shooting, and then I'll load them up like 10 o'clock at night before I go to bed, like right before I go to bed. So
No,
it's
I can't
usually.
do that.
I mean, you should probably you got friggin' what 55 rounds to shove into a tube, or are you using something
It's
else?
only 43.
Oh, so you're using a Glock mag with a Terran extension, essentially. Then
Yeah. I
yeah.
was thinking about when at the prize table at Nats, they had one of the MBX like steel tubes with the MBX like 15 round plus extension. I was like, oh, I kind of want that. I know
Yeah.
that. I decided at the end, I was like, yeah, I'll just go get something else.
Yeah. What'd you end up pulling off the prize table?
Just a bunch of bullet inserts. At the end, I've switched my load data so much over the past year trying to figure out what I want to shoot.
Hmm.
Um, I started at like 147 minor loads, like sub loads, and then I dropped down to 115s, and then I went up to 124s. And then at the end for Nats, for like the last month, 2 months of last season, I shot Blitz, their 100 grain loads. And
Hmm.
then I eventually cloned Blitz, I cloned their loads with berries, 100 grain, and then whatever powder I use.
Hmm.
Um, so I picked up a bunch of berry certs just so I can buy more 100 grain loads. And then I ended. Then I went back to the hunt. I just ordered 14,125 grain polymer bullets. Just switching back and forth. I don't even know what I want yet, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, how, how fun is it to clean the comp out of your JP5?
Well, if I spray with Pam the night before,
Hmm.
super easy.
Yeah.
No, I'll have no following at all. If I don't do that, it'll build up for I'll probably get like, an eighth of an inch of following on each baffle.
Hmm.
And then I'll just take a hammer and a chisel and go mining on it.
Yeah. So do you feel that the fouling affects your accuracy?
No,
Okay. I mean, some people say they do, so I'm just curious on that one.
I've never really. I mean, at the end of the day, I look at it as I'm shooting 25 yards.
Hmm.
Like, how accurate do I really need to be?
Right.
It's not like when I load, like 9 mil for USPSA, I'm not like sitting there like, oh no, this charge is 3.5 and this one's like 3.59. I really don't give a shit about that. When I'm
Hmm.
shooting PRS, yeah, like I'm measuring my powder down to the closest tenth I can get it to because, velocity is key when shooting at 1,000 yards. But USPSA, I'm not really worried about. Oh, am I hitting right where the dot is, or am I hitting a half inch below or half inch up? Like I'm shooting, I'm gonna shoot.
Hmm. Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Yeah, my neighbor, that way, he's a PRS shooter, and yeah, he's got his trick. He loads on a 550,
Hmm.
but then he does his powder trickle, off station. So then he dumps it in his powder
Yep.
station, and then he's like, "I got a trickle it there." I'm like, "Yeah, I ain't got time for you. Like, I ain't got time for
Oh
this shit." Crank, 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 crank. Done.
yeah. Well, it's funny because I can crank out 9 mil. I can crank out 700 rounds in the time it would take me to just throw powder and 100 pieces of brass to 6.5.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, no, thank you.
It's fun though.
Yeah, what
It's
it's like.
satisfying watching steel ring at 1,000 yards.
I mean, that is true, but he will he tells me, "Yeah, my barrel shot out at 1,500 rounds." I'm like, "1,500 rounds? That ain't shit." But, he'll chalk another new barrel in the lathe and just do his thing. I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, I actually just ordered a new barrel.
Yeah.
I'm only at 2,000 rounds.
Oh, it's 5 rounds past shot out. I mean, I don't know what you're gonna do.
Yeah. He must be if he's burning a barrel at 1,500 rounds, he's shooting fast bullets.
Yeah. I don't know if it's true that it's actually shot out, but how he talks about it, I'm like, I don't know enough to question you, so I'm just like, "You do you."
Yeah, I mean,
Just
like
like go ahead.
it'll be like you know, right now the way my gun groups, I'm stacking 5 rounds in the same hole.
Mhm.
And if I measure it, I'm coming out to like 0.3 inch groups at 100. You know, as soon as like the more serious guys, as soon as they start seeing that group go over half an inch, they're like, yeah, my barrel's done.
Mhm.
Which is crazy to think like a half-inch group at 100, you're like, oh yeah, I gotta get a new barrel. But like those deviations could possibly mess up far round or far shots, but like those are like the serious like semi-pro pro shooters in PRS.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely not a me thing. That's for sure. But Greg, we're kind of near the time I wanted to wrap it up at, but I do have a couple more questions. Like obviously, this is a good question. What is your make ready?
What is my make ready?
Yeah, like what do you do? Like you get told to make ready. What do you do?
Well, first stage of the match, obviously I'll check my dots.
Mhm.
I made that fatal mistake at the Carolina Classic at the first stage where I didn't check my dots because it was an unloaded start and I was so focused on that I shot the whole first stage without both of my dots on.
Ooh. Shake awake
which
work,
was
please.
which is funny too because like I had a great unloaded start. I raised the gun up and like I didn't see the dot and like my head's like going around. I'm like, shit, I didn't turn them on. Well, we're just gonna send it and see what happens. And like I moved from my front position back and I was like, my dot's not on, and everyone's like, what?
I love
um
the mid stage talks. It's hilarious.
oh yeah, I do so many of those, which they used to be bad. Like I'm swearing at the target, like, oh god, it was bad, but the funny ones are fun.
Yeah,
um
for example, like, Area 5, my buddy Patch's reader. I don't know if you've met Patches or not, but he, on the stage where you have to run all the way down to one end and then run all the way back,
mhm.
he did some stupid shit. He initiated the reload early and was shooting through the one port strong hand only, and then as he's doing a reload he's coming back, he's like, "I fucked up." And they got it right on video. It's the best thing ever. I need to post that again because that was entertaining. I gotta find that now. But continue. So you next step.
um after I check my dots, and then I'll get like a good sight picture, and then I'll, if you know, depending on how the stage allows it, I'll, you know, take a step towards where I'm going and see how the dot looks on target with the sun, and if there is some stuff like that. Um, Test my trigger, make sure my trigger feels good. Block my bolts to the rear, put my magazine in, because I'll load. I'll jam my mags as full as they can go, to the point where, like, if my bolt's closed, I can't insert the magazine. So I'll lock my bolt to the rear, send the bolt home, and then once the gun is fully loaded, get one more sight picture just so I can feel the weight of it,
Mhm.
and then I'll get ready.
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's pretty interesting and good. And I like hearing everyone's kind of like process on make ready
Mhm.
because everyone does it different. Everyone's got their own opinion and their routine, right? Like it's cool to see how people's brains work. Now, but how I say this is your make ready time. It's not for you to grab all your shit, dumb fucks. If you're not ready, you need to be ready. I will say I've had a couple times I've walked up to a stage. I've got like my 3 short sticks, and I'm like, I'm missing my big stick. So I'm hollering at one of the squad mates standing next to my bag. I'm like, big stick in the pocket, gimme.
Yeah, I did that at nationals too on the one stage, like, because I only have one mag pouch on my belt,
Hmm.
because I'm, for one, I'm not going to spend another like $70 on another double alpha PCC mag pouch, because I
Right.
don't ever carry two mags in a local. But at a major, I'll always have a spare one in my mag pouch, and then I'll have the one I load with in my back pocket. Um, and I forget, it was like stage 18 or the last stage at nationals. On the end, I get up there and I reach in my back pocket and I'm like, oh no, it's just awkward. And I look at the RL. I'm like, hold on a minute, and I yell, Mag, Mag, please, it's in the cart. Someone bring it.
Yeah, I mean the worst thing is they bring you the mag. And it's like no, not that one, the other one.
Yeah. Thankfully, though, I only have two mags. Like I have, you know, and I swap them out all year round. So like I'll have two mags that are only for majors.
Hmm.
That way they, you know, they don't get, you know, chipped up and stuff like that. I know the springs are still going to be good. And then, you know, I have my old major mags, which are my local mags now. And then, like, you know, as the local mags, you know, wear out and this and that, I'll swap the tubes over, you know, buy fresh
Hmm.
ones for majors, and typically do that once a year.
Yeah, yeah, I do that. Like I've got two big sticks, so I'm always rotating big sticks on a stage. So it's not like one's like, oh, this is my backup big stick that never gets used. No, they get rotated evenly
Yeah,
because I
so,
don't
you know,
want
the feed lifts aren't getting all chewed up and dropping them on rocks and
Yeah, yeah, that and the fact that it's just easier to be like, "Oh, my stage is done." Empty mags or partial mags go on the tray on the cart, grab
mm,
fresh mags, immediately put onto belt, then with time, load mags, put them right where they're supposed to go, and then go back to pasting or
yep.
running the tablet and timer. So I'm just like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And usually what happens is I'll end up just loading them as we walk to the next bay or,
Mhm.
when we get to the next one, just load it up and be like, "All right, we can go now." Usually, because everyone's like, "Here, you can take the tablet or timer." I'm like, "Yeah, I really don't." I mean, yes, I am a CRO. Do I want the tablet and timer always? No. Are
It's
y'all
like,
gonna
oh yeah,
learn?
you're done shooting. Here you go. You know how to do this.
Yeah, and I'm more like, I will take the pad. Someone else can learn how to like run the squad. Like I can hit buttons.
Yeah.
It and that's one of the things I think that's dying a little bit too. Is like people like, I don't know how to run the timer. Well, yes, you do. You know the range commands. If you
Mhm.
fuck up, we can get you through it.
Yeah. It's not that hard. Press a button, you know, make sure you get your final shot, make sure they don't kill anyone. Like, it's a local, it's not that serious.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. And if it's that close to an alpha Charlie, just give him the damn alpha.
Yeah.
It's like there's no point of like having to look at it unless we absolutely have to. Now, if you smoke a no shoot and I'm like, did he hit the perf? I'll get my overlays out and be like,
Yeah.
no, or yes, yep, you definitely smoked the perf. Uh,
I mean, I'll pull out my overlays. I'll specifically pull out my overlays on my buddies.
yeah,
100%. Like, oh yeah, dude, that's don't look like an alpha. Let me get
no,
the
that's definitely
overlays
not a
out.
double. I don't see it, but I love pulling out like I do have my wallet. Ah, I'll pull out like my debit card or something like instead of my overlays and be like, I just don't see it, guys. I just don't see it. But usually it was
Cover the
a
whole thing.
yeah, the best one's like a room key, like your hotel room key. And
Yeah.
be like, I just don't see it, guys. Like, and then they look and see like, oh, you motherfucker. And then you pull out the real ones, and it's like, okay, but yeah. But anywho, I guess my last question is, if people, Greg, if people wanted to get a hold of, well, wait, better question. Do you have partners or sponsors?
No.
Oh, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, those guys.
No, like everyone's always like, I mean, I've had people like the whole last year, like especially after I made Grandmaster, they're like, "So you gonna go, get sponsors now?" I'm like, "No." I mean, the sponsors that I have on my jersey
Hmm.
now are people that like I know specifically. Like I've known them, like I deal with them a lot, and it's not like they're not really like sponsoring me per se. It's just more like I want to wear their brand because like they're my friends.
Oh, gotcha.
Um,
Oh, well, that's good. Well, then shout them out. Like they might not be sponsors, but if you want to pimp them, pimp them.
yeah, I mean, if anyone's ever down in North Carolina, Stumpy's Custom Guns, they are
Stumpies.
Stumpy's, yeah.
That's a great name for like a gun shop. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, it was actually owned by a guy named Brad who lost both of his legs, knees down,
Hmm.
when he was overseas, and then he sold it to my buddy Lee, the sniper I know.
Hmm.
Um, and Lee's ran it ever since. He's been running it for I don't know 7, 8 years now. Um, but he's a like specifically if you guys are looking for like precision rifles and shit, um, he is top tier, like hands down the best gunsmith when it comes to building custom rifles.
Hmm.
And even like gas guns too. There's a lot of gunsmiths there that do a lot of like high end, very good gun work for like gas guns and stuff. Um, Great shop. I go there like I don't think I've ever really spent money there because I'll go in there and be like, hey, I have this problem. I don't know how to
Hmm.
fix it. Can you teach me how to fix these? Oh yeah, sure. Here, come over here. And like I'll go there and I'll work on my own guns and like I'll help him work on guns for the shop and it's just a great relationship that I have with everyone there.
Hmm. That is pretty cool. And with a name like Stumpies, you can't go wrong.
Very unique too.
Yeah.
You won't forget it.
No, nope, you never will. Any others?
And then just Alliance Outdoors. It's in
Hmm.
the range that I shoot at for PRS and then for the USPSA matches. Again, it's owned by Lee. Great range you can push out to, especially if you're looking for long range stuff. You can go out to 900 yards, and they're clearing the forest right now to build longer. They have pistol bays, they have wide open rifle bays. It's basically like a private range that you can do whatever you want there. And when I say
Hmm.
whatever you want, I mean you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, that is pretty legit. Not gonna lie.
Like they were the manager there, Frank, it's Lee's dad. The one day he was like, "Yeah, I gotta go, clear some brush." I was like, "Well, how are you gonna go clear it?" He's like, "I'm just gonna go, pour some diesel on it and burn it down." And I was like, well, "Let's pour some diesel on it and then shoot at it with tracers and see if we can ignite it."
Did it work?
No, it didn't work.
Oh,
Unfortunately, it did not work.
that'd been pretty cool if it did.
It would have been cool.
That would have been cool. But yeah.
And then
So,
the last one is just DS holsters. Guy
mhm,
Paul Hernandez. He makes custom holsters for anything you could ever want. Suppressed pistols, pistols in general, magazines. If it's got a pattern that he can get his hands on, he can make it in any you know size, color, any pattern of kydex you could want.
yeah. That's funny because you're a PCC guy, and no, I'm just fucking with you.
He did make me. He made me some PCC pouches too.
There you go.
Like I just sent him like, hey, I need a Glock mag longer, long enough to hold the weight of a 40, 3 round mag fully loaded, and then I gave him the mounting hardware that I wanted, and he figured it out and he got it done.
Nice. Yeah, that is always helpful. Especially like, oh man, I need another pouch like yesterday. Can you make me one? Yeah. And
Oh
then
yeah, and
some.
he's local too. It's great.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. I'm glad there's some companies that you like and that you're willing to share the love with them a little bit too. So, Greg, if people wanted to get a hold of you after listening to this and have a conversation with you, what's the best place to do that?
Just on Instagram. Um, I mean, I don't really like put myself out there to like engage with people just
Mhm.
because it's not really me. I kind of just stick to myself. But yeah, I mean, if anyone has any questions or wants to talk, just hit me up on Instagram, and really don't look at it that much, but I check it every once in a while.
Yep, exactly. Just enough to accept an invite on a show and have a good conversation. That's for sure.
Of course.
Yep. But Greg, like I said, thank you for hanging out with me and hanging out and chit chatting with me. It was a good episode, and I think the listeners are going to enjoy it. So
Thank you for having me.
no problem. And listeners, as I say on every episode, get out and do the things. I'll see you on the next one.